You're watching the Luca Rosano Show. Here's your host, Luca Rosano.
Welcome back to another edition of the Luca Rosano Show presented by Dave & Buster's. I'm your host, Luca Rosano, joined alongside a very special guest, formerly on Sportsnet 590 The Fan, and currently the morning host at 105.9 The Region, Jim Lang. Jim, how's it going?
Good, Luca. How are you?
I could be doing a lot better. I mean, that was a very tough loss last night that the Raptors suffered at the hands of the Celtics. 102-99 the final. The Raptors were in that game. They were up by 11 at one point, and they let it slip away. And just like that, Jim, I mean, they're staring a daunting 0-2 deficit right in the face. I want to get your reaction to Game 2. Are we overreacting to this loss? Because at the end of the day, it was a 3-point loss.
I don't think we can overreact because Game 1, that didn't look like the Raptors we know. The Boston really had them. So in Game 2, Nick Nurse and the Raptors, I think Nick Nurse must have been thrilled through first three quarters, the way the team was playing, the lead that you had mentioned. Say, we're going into the fourth quarter, we have a lead. We're playing way better than we did in Game 1. We're playing like the team that he wants them to play like.
Yeah.
And then to have Marcus Smart score so many points in a 3-minute span and not miss anything. And then the rest of the team, and then the Raptors all of a sudden were on their heels when Smart started draining three after three. And then their shot selection about midway through the fourth quarter on, I thought was awful. They were from the field. They were ice cold.
Yeah.
And it got away from them. And that's what hurts to me is mentally they weren't resilient enough to come up with an answer to Smart and then keep pouring the offense on their own to keep pace with the Celtics. And then the Celtics, give Brad Stevens and that team credit. That was impressive. That was an impressive victory for them in Game 2.
Oh, for sure. And that's the thing that bugs me the most is the fact that we had that double-digit lead. We had the Celtics right where we wanted them. And then, like you said, Smart goes on to hit 5 straight threes. We don't have an answer. And the entire team collectively froze when the spotlight was shining the brightest. And one of those guys was Pascal Siakam. What has been your reaction to his underwhelming performances, not to mention that huge error he made stepping out of bounds in late in that fourth quarter, which I'm not going to say cost the Raptors, but, it hurt them a lot given the circumstances.
Well, to that end, I mean, what happened is they just received a favorable call on a timeout.
That's right.
So they get possession because they went to video review. They get it, and he makes a really silly mental error, and that's almost a perfect microcosm of what's happened to Pascal Siakam without the security of Kawhi Leonard there.
Yeah.
Now, let's be honest. Having Kawhi Leonard there on the floor at the same time was the best thing to ever happen to Pascal Siakam. Because if you're the opposing team, you're not rotating your defense to shut down Pascal Siakam when Kawhi Leonard's on the floor. So for Brad Stevens, if you're facing the 2020 Raptors as opposed to the 2019 Raptors, the way you defend the Raptors is completely different. And that's part of the problem for Pascal Siakam is not having that security blanket. I mean, if you think about Walker, Brown, Smart, and Tatum for the Celtics, I mean, so if you're the Raptors, Tatum is lighting them up.
Yeah.
So you have to put extra focus on defense. That means someone's going to have good looks. And then Smart in the fourth quarter had a lot of looks and was making no mistake with them. And I think that's part of the frustration for the Raptors fans, especially after last year's playoff run. Whenever it looked dire, Kawhi Leonard physically, mentally, emotionally carried that team to wherever they had to go to get him to the next level. And right now they're missing that element, that superstar element that good teams in the NBA have to keep going.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head there, and I said that in my live stream last night. We are missing that guy who can emotionally just get this team back on track when they are facing adversity. I mean, how many times did Kawhi Leonard string together a run of his own during last year's playoffs that just completely flipped momentum on its head? Jim, are we being fair with the Siakam criticism? Because I know a lot of Raptors fans, they expected this guy to be the face of the franchise. They expected this guy to be a number one option. Obviously, you got the big contract extension before the season began. Where do you see Siakam now on this team? I mean, is he still considered the main option, or do the Raptors seriously have to look at, who else can we pair Siakam with? Because clearly the pressure seems to be too much for this guy.
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's Luca, because, okay, so where do you find another Kawhi Leonard to complement Pascal Siakam? That's not easy to find. I mean, for Masai Ujiri and the management, they caught the perfect player at the perfect time with the perfect team for the perfect playoff run. And like everything last year fell into place, and every time they needed something special, the supporting staff was there to help Kawhi, and Kawhi was there to come through. I mean, look no further than the shot against the 76ers. Without Kawhi Leonard, do they make that shot? Do they win that series? I doubt it.
I don't think so.
Kawhi Leonard was always there for them. So you have to understand Pascal Siakam is a good player, a very good player, but he does have a ceiling that Kawhi Leonard was able to go higher. Kawhi Leonard's ceiling might be here, Pascal's there. That's nothing against Pascal Siakam. I still think he's an excellent NBA player. But then you have to evaluate, as good as he is he good enough to pull you by the bootstraps and carry you through games like this? Now, what they would have loved to see is when Marcus Smart was draining 3 after 3 in game 2, that Siakam went with a couple of his own.
Yeah.
And you start answering with your own. Now it's a tennis match. Now it's an even fight. But that's what surprised me is there was one play with Marcus Smart was getting ready to shoot a 3. They defended him well. He almost lost possession. He slides over, regains possession, and just drains it. No problem. And he's like yelling. You can hear him yelling in the broadcast.
Yeah, he was like, pumped.
He was pumped. He's feeling it.
Yeah.
And they had nothing to stop him. And that's, I mean, so to put it all on Siakam, Luca, it's difficult. It's a complete team thing. I mean, that's where, what about Van Fleet? What about Powell? What about Kyle? Like, you look at all the players.
Yeah.
Look at all the different players on the floor. They have to share as much responsibility as Pascal Siakam.
Yeah, they all froze. I mean, when Smart was making his individual run, again, one of the most remarkable individual runs we've seen in a while, like nobody had an answer collectively for the Raptors. Smart was having his way out there. At one point, he completed a 4-point play. Like, this dude was on fuego. And that, to me, really just changed the entire complexion of the game. After Smart goes on that run, Raptors don't have a response. They don't have the answer. And then we lose this game. And now we're down 0-2, Jim, as you know. Okay, put your coach's hat on right now, Jim, because I know Nick Nurse, he was under a little bit of heat after last night's loss, in particular, keeping Marc Gasol out there for as long as he did, especially, in the fourth quarter. What are some changes you think this team can make going into Game 3? And is it inevitable that Nick Nurse has to bench Marc Gasol in favor of Serge Ibaka, who has looked to be one of the team's best players in this series alone?
Well, I'd start Serge. He would get the start and limit Gasol's numbers so Serge is fresh for those crucial last 8 minutes of the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to have to shift your rotation to more heavy focus on Serge, and Gasol is the relief player off the. Sorry, that's the way it has to be.
Yeah, there's no choice.
It is no choice, because otherwise the Celtics will keep exploiting Gasol being out there as long as he did.
Yeah.
And to their benefit. Like, Brad Stevens is playing with house money now. He had that incredible comeback in the fourth quarter. They're up 2-0 in the series. He knows there's a lot of pressure all around the Raptors now, the defending champs, to bounce back. And Stevens has got a good team. They're feeling it. They're very confident. So now it is up to Nick Nurse, because Nick Nurse, part of the bubble in the NBA is he can see what Jamal Murray is doing with Denver. He can see what Jimmy Butler is doing for Miami, which is phenomenal. I mean, there are key players who are basically saying, put it on me, I'm going to do it. He's got a great team. I love the makeup of the team. I love the balance. But I don't believe that Nick Nurse is convinced that there's one guy he can just put everything on their shoulders and they're going to be able to do it, especially against Boston, the way that they're playing right now. I don't know about that, Luca.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You look at some of these teams still in the bubble, playing for a championship. They do have that go-to guy, and the Celtics have that guy too in Jason Tatum. He was spectacular. 30-plus points yesterday. Couple of key threes when the Celtics were really, on the heels there. The Raptors had them where they wanted, and Jason Tatum, he had responses when necessary. That's what separates, the boys from the men. Can the Raptors overcome this 0-2 deficit, in your opinion, Jim? Because you look at last year, obviously we did do that against the Milwaukee Bucks in the conference finals, but there are a couple of main differences this time around. We don't have that superstar like Kawhi Leonard who can emotionally turn this series on its head. And secondly, we're not, going back home to Toronto playing in front of those fans, and we're not going to get fueled by those fans. We're playing this series down 0-2 in an empty gym. So what's your take on that?
First, the only way they're going to do it is they have to be hot from the floor. They can't be ice cold and do like 2 of 12 and 3 of 14 from field goal range. That can't happen. That's got to be better. unforced errors like stepping out of bounds after you gain possession. So they can't against Boston. They're going to have to play smart, disciplined basketball, no silly errors. And when they have a good shot selection, they've got to make those shots. Because right now, Boston's making the shots, and they're basically challenging the Raptors. Okay, you make the shot. If Marcus Smart is draining 3 after 3, then it's up to the Raptors' top-end players to respond. And that's going to be the challenge for Nick Nurse. And you can only coach them so much. Ultimately, the players have to perform. So if the Raptors shoot like they are capable of, and play smart basketball, yeah, they can get back into it. But, they make silly mistakes and they go cold again, Boston will exploit them.
Yeah, shots have to fall. Siakam's got to be a lot better. And, yeah, I don't know what it is right now with this team. How much do you think it's, the mental side that's affecting this Raptors team right now against the Celtics? Because you look at it, Jim, we can't seem to beat the Celtics. We've only beaten them once overall this season. A couple of these games have been blowouts. Game 1 in this series and then earlier in the bubble in the regular restart season. So how much do you credit, mental wearing on the Raptors that they probably are just, they're saying, like, what do we have to do to beat these guys? They clearly cut our number.
I think it's that, Luca, and I do agree with that. But here's another thing. They played deep into June last year, winning the NBA title. Then they have one of the greatest celebration parades of any sports team in North America in the last 25 years. It was that big. And then they're feted as not just Toronto GTA, but national stars in Canada, and then for the international players in their respective countries. So then they have the ring, the banner raising, everything. I mean, that's in a short off season. Then they're away from their family. I mean, it has been a lot. And that's part of it, is they're not the hunter anymore. They're the hunted.
Yeah.
Everyone's trying to knock them off now. Before it was, oh, that's cute, the Raptors. Oh, I guess they went around. Oh, okay. Because the rest of the NBA are thinking about the big teams. And next thing you know, the Raptors are winning it all. And so teams like, well, but, and that's part of it. It's everything. Boston seems to have their number for whatever reason. The length of last season, the emotional, mental drain. I mean, it does take a lot out of any sports team to win it all and then come back. But then come back in the season they've had with the shutdown,
with
the
layoffs,
restart, with the bubble. I mean, the family. That's one thing about the Raptors. The family means everything to them, and I love it. But to be away from your family that long, like, that can't be easy. That cannot be easy. You saw the reaction to the players in the opening game when they had their kids basically introducing them.
Yeah, that was awesome.
It was incredible, but I mean, some of the players were almost in tears. They missed their wife and kids.
Yeah,
they missed their parents. And I get that. So I think it's a bit of everything. That's why sports is so unpredictable now, Luca. Is teams having to endure this? Who can endure it? It's not easy to be away from your friends and family in that little bubble that long and just act like it's just another day. It's not.
Yeah, that's why I found it laughable when people were saying that whoever wins this year's championship, there's going to be an asterisk beside their name. I would argue this is going to be one of the most, hardest championships to win under all these circumstances that you just named. Like, you got to be mentally tough. You're away from your family. You're playing in front of nobody. You've had to stop and start, a couple of times now. Whoever does win this championship, Jim, they are truly going to be deserving of that championship title and that championship name. Jim, I have another question here for you. What do you think, or how do you think this series will dictate what the Raptors do this offseason? If the Raptors, let's just say here, worst case scenario, they lose in 5 or even worse than that, get swept. How much of an impact will this series in particular play into some of the decisions that are upcoming for this team in this offseason?
Oh, I think Masai is, I believe he's the best executive in pro sports right now, like on and off the court. He didn't get there by making silly decisions. And as much as you like to say, well, we won, even great teams that win turn over the roster even a small percentage every offseason. You have to. It's the nature of pro sports now, is you can't have everyone back all the time. So what players will not be back next year? What changes will he make? If they get knocked out, say, in 5 games of the series, there will be some players missing that maybe were part of the championship team from 2019. And as Raptors fans and just pro sports fans, we should not be surprised by that. That is life, and what pro sports is right now.
Yeah.
And Masai will do whatever is necessary to keep the team competitive. I mean, you got a great coach. You've got a great core. But you had alluded to it earlier. For a team like the Raptors to not have home court advantage, that is a big factor.
Yeah.
If you're going to LA and LeBron's here, if you're going to Toronto at Scotiabank and those fans, it does make a difference. It makes a huge difference when there's 19,000 plus people and you have them on your side. You'd be not human to say that doesn't make a difference. It does make a difference. And they can pipe in all the crowd noise and do the fake hand thing when the guy's shooting free throws. It is not the same thing. And I wonder how many extra points is that for a team if they really were on their home court in an NBA playoff game? Because if you look through history and chart stuff, it is tough to win on the road in the NBA playoffs. It's very tough because of numerous factors. The crowd and officiating on the road when you're on the road is different as well. And that's not part of that right now. So that's why that's one thing on Masai when he does make his decisions, Luca. I wonder how much of a factor he's going to put into that, saying, well, yeah, they lost, but we didn't have home court advantage. We didn't have our fans. It was different. Yeah. And you know what I mean? Like temper maybe some of the moves he may or may not make.
No, 100%, Jim. You're correct on that. And yeah, I had argued, coming into this bubble, the Raptors would be most affected by the fact that there's no fans cheering them on. And maybe, that's playing into all these shots missing for them. Jim, before I let you go here, I got to get your prediction. Who do you ultimately see squaring off in the NBA Finals, and who will be your 2020 bubble champion year?
I don't know. I mean, I really like LeBron. I mean, I like what LeBron and the Lakers are doing, but I don't know if they're deep enough. Like, I'm not convinced if they have everything going for them. Everyone thought Milwaukee would be a lead pipe cinch to go deep, but geez, I don't know. Right now, is Miami going to beat Milwaukee? They could, because the way Jimmy Butler's playing.
They're looking good right now.
They're looking good, and the Greek Freak kind of has some people scratching their head, like, why is he not? Like, there's regular season Greek Freak, and there's postseason, and when is that going to change? I'm loving what Denver's doing. I would love to see Denver beat the Clippers, even though Kawhi Leonard's part of it. I just think the Nuggets have been great. If Boston gets by Toronto, I could see Boston going all the way to the final.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Because, I mean, this is a big team for Boston to beat. And if they get by, say, the Raptors in 5 games, whoever they play, Milwaukee or Miami in the conference final, they're going to be rested and healthy, and I mean, definitely a lot of confidence. So Boston wins this series. As far as the East, to me, Boston's going to the final.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would have Boston getting to the final if they obviously win this series, and then I got one of the LA teams still in the West. I think it's going to be tough. Okay. For as hot as the Nuggets are right now, Jamal Murray, great, story Canadian kid. I think the Clippers will beat them, and then the Lakers will beat whoever's, winning that other series with the Rockets and Thunder. And yeah, maybe we'll get a Lakers-Boston final.
And and if you're Adam Silver and you're the NBA after everything's happened, if you got a Celtics-Lakers final, you're like, yes, this is awesome, because that's something that people will tune into. Yeah. That's Yankees Dodgers. That's sports at its finest.
Yeah.
And you can't go wrong with LeBron on the big stage. You just can't. And that's been pretty amazing to me as well as LeBron is. I don't think the Lakers have the supporting cast that other mega NBA teams do, but LeBron sometimes just shrugs his shoulders and goes, I don't care. We're winning the game.
Yeah,
like that's it. It's like, okay, Luca, you just defend that guy. I got this. And you're like, okay, LeBron, sure, okay, I got this.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible that he's still going so strong, this far into his career. And yeah, the Lakers are definitely going to be, one of those championship contenders that I think is going to be playing near the end. Jim, thank you so much for your time. You can definitely go follow Jim, guys. I'll put the links to his social media handles down below. Again, you can hear him in the morning on 105.9 The Region. Before we get out of here, guys, please drop a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. I'm going to give a shout out to Jeremy Finbow, who actually just joined as a starter member of this channel. So shout out to you, Jeremy. Thank you for your support, everybody who watches these shows. Jim, thank you so much, man. Enjoy the rest of the playoffs. Stay safe. Always a pleasure chatting with you, and we'll do this again sometime soon.
We the North. Thanks, Luca.